Welcome to the IT Smart Guy podcast, a technology podcast aimed at the modern business owner. And here's your host, Tony Edwards. Hello and welcome to episode 19 of the IT Smart Guy podcast, the tech-based podcast for the modern business owner. My name's Tony, and in this episode we're going to talk about Microsoft's recent announcement surrounding updates to Windows 10, Netflix's password crackdown, and more tech job cuts. We then have our next guest in the interview section. We've got Stacey Calder, who runs the Business Success Network, and we chat about a variety of things from her background through to the apps she likes to use and her business awards. Finally, as always, at the end I'll be sharing my tip of the episode. Well, actually Stacey's kind of given us that as well, so I thought I'd just add my thoughts. Let's jump straight into the news. Let's look at what's happening in the news. So, first up, some news for all of you Windows users out there. As of April 2023, the majority of Windows users are still rocking Windows 10. And you know what? There's good reason for that. Windows 10 has become a beloved operating system, and it's followed Microsoft's typical pattern of good and not so good releases. So let's take a quick walk down memory lane. We've seen Windows 98 to ME, XP to Vista, 7 to 8 and finally 10 to 11. But here's the kicker, Windows 10 is nearly 8 years old. And that's quite a feat considering its impressive performance and feature set. However, Microsoft have decided it's time to bid farewell and move on to greener pastures, and they recently announced that the current version, 22H2, will be the final release of Windows 10. Now this news has come straight from the Windows blog, where they have shared their client roadmap update. So if you're currently using Windows 10, don't expect any more changes or any new features. The end is in sight, and it's marked on the calendar October 14th, 2025. Until then, Microsoft will continue to support Windows 10 with those monthly security updates, but here's the catch. They are encouraging everyone to upgrade to Windows 11 because Windows 10 is now essentially stuck in a death spiral. The company already announced its termination date, but the newsworthy bit here is that there won't be any more feature updates for Windows 10. Now, you might be thinking, wait, this is news to me? But fear not. Microsoft have been trying to entice people away from Windows 10 since they released Windows 11 back in October 21. Surprisingly, a lot of users are content with Windows 10. It's fast, stable, and does everything they need. Windows 11, on the other hand, has been seen as a bit of a downgrade or a mild update because of some interface changes, and let's not get started with the taskbar. Now, Windows 10 is still installed on almost 70% of devices as of February 2023 according to StatCounter, but Microsoft isn't one to give up easily. They have been making moves to convince people to switch to Windows 11 for quite some time. In January, they stopped selling individual licenses, making Windows 11 the default operating system for new PCs. For those of you in the do-it-yourself crowd, licenses are still available from third parties, but it's always a bit tricky to navigate their authenticity. At this point, I'm afraid it might be time to wave that white flag and upgrade. Windows 11 does come with some exciting new features. It's got the Xbox Game Bar, and if you're not a fan of the UI changes, fear not, there are some affordable add-ons like Start 11, and also some free utilities like Explorer Patcher that can make it look and feel like Windows 10. So Windows users, the clock is ticking. The time has come to decide whether to stick with Windows 10 or take the leap into the world of Windows 11. At the end of the day, the choice is yours. But remember, change can sometimes bring with it some great new experiences. From Microsoft to Netflix, who have finally begun cracking down on password sharing, just as they had promised, and it's happening in major markets like the UK and the US. Now, we all know that a Netflix subscription can range from $4.99 up to $15.99 per month in the UK. Netflix is now notifying customers that if they want to share their account outside of their homes, they're going to have to pay an additional $4.99 per month. If you're in the US, that's about $8. The aim behind this move is to boost those subscriber numbers. However, this new policy has received a number of mixed reactions, especially in countries where this has already been tested. In Spain, for example, when Netflix started, they were charging €5.99 for an additional account. It lost over 1 million subscribers in 3 months, according to Kantar. Now, just recently, Netflix sent out emails to customers in over 100 countries and territories, including Australia, Brazil, France and Germany, Mexico and Singapore, informing them about the changes to account sharing. The company had already warned investors that cancellations were expected as they implement this program, but they believe in the long run, paid sharing will lead to increased revenue, which will help them to continue to improve their service and also their growth. Interestingly, in Canada, where these changes were introduced back in February, Netflix has actually seen its paid membership base grow larger than before, with an uptick in revenue growth. This encouraged the company to expand its efforts and target the millions of households worldwide that still share passwords, despite it being against Netflix's original rules. The reason behind this push for paid sharing and cracking down on password sharing is simple. The streaming market competition has intensified and continues to intensify. Netflix want to tap into this audience to generate more revenue. There are heavyweight players out there like Disney and Amazon who have entered the scene with their own services. Netflix faces challenges to its dominance. Plus, customers are feeling the pressure from rising prices across the board. To address this, Netflix has been experimenting with a less expensive streaming option that includes ads. They've also reduced prices in 116 countries. By notifying customers in some of their most important markets about these changes, Netflix hopes to strike a balance between maintaining a loyal subscriber base and an increase in revenue. They have a global subscriber count of 233 million, and this streaming giant is undoubtedly a force to be reckoned with within this industry. Finally, more staff cuts in the tech sector, as Vodafone, BT and Dropbox have all announced staff cutbacks, and AI is being described as the predominant reason, if you believe the first couple of paragraphs in the press. Vodafone have announced that 11,000 job roles will go over the next 3 years. They currently employ over 100,000 people worldwide and 9,000 within the UK. And this is the largest round of job cuts within their history. BT plan to cut staff numbers by up to 55,000 people over the next 5 to 7 years. This is over 40% of their workforce. And Dropbox are planning to drop 16% of its employee count. BT are planning to replace 10,000 of those job roles through the implementation of automation and digitisation strategies, while other roles are going to disappear when they complete the rollout of their full fibre and 5G networks across the UK, which they believe will mean they won't require as many engineers because this new infrastructure is more reliable. Dropbox CEO Drew Houston has said that the reason for their staff cuts is because the AI era of computing has finally arrived. While Vodafone have changed their CEO in the last few weeks, and she is concerned about their competitive edge. But if you do a little bit more digging, a little bit more reading about this, it all comes back to money. Dropbox has seen a slump in growth, which in turn leads to a decline in profits. BT have reported a drop in pre-tax profits of 12%, while Vodafone reported a 1.3% drop in earnings. All of this money loss has resulted in job losses. And according to TechCrunch, More than 184,000 people have been laid off within the tech sector in 2023 already. That is a massive number, and I truly hope that those affected go on to greater things. That's it for the news this time. Let's get on to the good stuff. Do you have an interesting tech story? Do you run a business? Are you a technology provider and would like to come onto the show and have a chat? You can now do just that. All you need to do is go to the link in the show notes and apply. The application takes literally 2 minutes, and who knows what it could lead to. Increased brand awareness, more social media followers, a boost in revenue, or just a platform for you to share your story. What have you got to lose? Apply now. The interview. So we now come to the interview part of the podcast, and I've got another fantastic guest lined up. She is the owner of the Business Success Network, and her name is Stacey Calder. Hi Stacey, how are you?
Hi Tony, I'm great, thanks. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you very much. Thank you so much for agreeing to come onto the show.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Because I know how busy you are running some business type awards, perhaps, which we'll talk about a little bit later on.
Definitely.
Brilliant. So for people that don't know who you are, why don't you just give us a little bit of an introduction to who you are, what you do?
Yep, so as you said, I'm Stacey Calder and I run the Business Success Network and magazine. And what that is it's a community of experts, but also just small to medium businesses that want to grow, that need the support. It can be really kind of challenging when you're a small business owner and you're on your own and you haven't got that team of people. So we are the cheerleaders in the background, if you like. We help people get as visible as possible, and our whole ethos is to grow you and grow your business.
Lovely, and like you just alluded to there, you do that in a number of ways. You've got your magazine. You've got a podcast, which I've been a guest. You've got awards, but obviously that's not the only thing you've done in your career. So let's go back to the start. Where did all the how did you start?
How did I get there?
Yeah.
So yeah, you're right. Everything I do tends to be around visibility. It's around helping people with their marketing assets. So they might tell me they're really good at social media, but they don't do anything in print. They might say they've got a podcast, but they don't know how to promote it. It might be that they want to be a speaker, but they've never done that. And so we look at all their assets and what they've got and piece together a strategy to help them improve that. But it hasn't always been that way. I've been in business 16 years now, and I started very much like a lot of my clients, kind of working from home, kitchen table business, as a lot of people would call it. And it was a case of I just didn't want to go back to kind of corporate rat runs. We'd got the children by then. And so I wanted something where I could still use my brain, still feel like I was a human being and not in that CBeebies world, but do it on my terms and have some flexibility. So I set up a business, and I also set up a company for mums in business as well. And that was a networking company. So it was all about the coffee mornings. It was about all those different networking opportunities that you get, but it was allowing them to bring their children or understanding that there were family commitments as well. And so I did that for about 8 years. We franchised it, and it grew to be quite a big network. There was around 26,000 members, covering 34 franchises across the country. So I lived and breathed kind of the networking, the training and the support side of it. And that's what I really loved. I loved being able to, run masterclasses on how they could market their business on a shoestring and things like that, because I was living and breathing and going through it myself. And had those children at home. So it allowed me to run my business. It also allowed me to help other people. And so I did that for 8 years, and I realised that it wasn't just mums that I was helping. It was there was guys that was coming and speaking. There were, absolutely anyone, and we were kind of open to that. And so when time came for me to sell the business on, I set up the Business Success Network, which was about making sure that there was a team of experts that could help this community that I'd built up over the years Because if you network for 16 years, you kind of end up with this huge community of people that that you like and that you want to champion and you want to cheerlead. So that's what the Business Success Network was about. I bought the magazine in as something to accompany it, really, just to make it a bit different from other networks. And then I didn't realise, I knew how much work went into magazines, don't get me wrong, but I didn't realise what a big part of the network it would become. And so it again, that allows people to, get on the front cover of a magazine or get in there with their expert advice. And that's what I've been doing ever since. So, that's a kind of whistle-stop tour of my 16 years in business, if you like.
And your kids, you mentioned a couple of times, they've always been a big part of everything you do. We met a couple of years ago through online networking during the pandemic, though
yes,
it feels like we've known each other for so much longer. We won't talk about troublemakers here. But, even then, your kids were a massive part of networking. I remember, Friday afternoons at 4:00, and one of your sons would come in, and it'd be McDonald's day. McDonald's.
Yes, you've cost me far too much in McDonald's. So the kids are a big part of this, and I think when you're in business, it can be really easy to. There's still some discrimination. There's still some discriminations about that. I heard recently what someone I was working with said that a client had basically said no, they weren't going to get the contract because they were a working mum and they didn't think they'd have the headspace. And it's absolutely bonkers because we all know if busy mums get stuff done. That's just the way it is. And so my kids were off, kind of starting school when I started business, and I thought this is brilliant. I'm going to set up my business, and that's going to be my new baby. I never imagined that my house would get so full of more children. And like you say, I'm mum and a guardian to two as well. And so it has to work. You have to juggle it. But business for me has always been about, not the legacy, because that's a bit cheesy, but, they can see actually that mum enjoys her business, that mum enjoys what she does. But it's really important that hard work, is part of that. It doesn't just get handed to you on a plate. And so they have been networking with me during lockdown. Let's face it, Tony, we had no choice. They were in the kitchen homeschooling. I was in the office, and there were times where they came in and, they got to know you and they got to know the other networkers, and that was part of the thing. And lockdown, in a way, was really good for that because it allowed businesses to kind of see behind the scenes a bit.
Yeah.
And obviously it allowed George to completely use you as a way to get McDonald's on a Friday. So, it's brilliant for that. That would be George's answer to it. Is tech allowed me to meet Tony and got me a McDonald's.
Yeah, but the network is such a big thing, and you've been doing it for so long. I didn't really start networking until COVID, because I didn't need to network before then. So coming into those networks was quite daunting, and it was nice that you and a few other people, I think, recognised that and kind of, arm around the shoulder, showed me the movers and the shakers, the right people to speak to, and obviously along the way you work out the ones you don't want to speak to.
Yeah, and there is a bit of that. We always talk about, don't we? Go, light up the room. Don't be one of these people that when you leave the room, everyone goes, "Oh, phew, thank God." And that's, it is about community. It's about finding the right people, and we just did that. Like you said, I can't believe it was only lockdown that we kind of really started networking together, because it has felt so much more than that. And that's, COVID was horrendous for a lot of people. Let's face it, but. It was tough, but it did have some positives, and the positives were actually by us all jumping online and networking, we got to network across the country. I'm up in Warwickshire, you're down south. We possibly wouldn't have crossed paths had it not been for that. And so, you've got to be really grateful for that, but you've got to take every opportunity. So, yeah, and that's what we've done, really.
Definitely. So, moving on from that, how has technology changed the way you do business over, let's look at pre-COVID and then post-COVID?
Yeah, I'm laughing to myself as I say this because Tony, you're my tech team basically, and so I am. I'm not as bad as the have you turned it off and on again, but I am pretty. Oh, I hold my hands up. I am not the techiest of tech people. Give me social media any day of the week. Give me that community building, and I'm fine. But not tech, just scares me a little bit, and it is kind of that fear of the unknown, really. So before lockdown, I used to run a lot of events. They were face to face. I would do probably done the odd thing online, but not really much. I'd got a free Zoom account and probably used it once every 5 years if someone random wanted to Zoom, but never really did a lot of or needed a lot of tech. Like I said, I'd ring you and go, help, it's not working. That's about it. Lockdown made us have to change. I couldn't go out and do events anymore. I couldn't run masterclasses face to face. And I love that. I'm a real people person. So I went from, networking 3 or 4 times a week, running masterclasses in person with groups of kind of 10, to suddenly thinking, well, this isn't going to happen now. It's lockdown. I can't leave my office. What am I going to do? So, we embraced the tech. And actually, I laugh when I think back to training, 200 team members on Zoom those first few days of lockdown for a client, because I wouldn't imagine I was that techie enough to do it, but it worked. We got there. And I then thought, right, okay, so masterclasses, let's take them online. There's people that are sitting online, they want something to do. And so COVID really did change that, and actually changed it for the better, because nobody's got time to be running around doing 3 or 4 networking meetings and travelling there and back for hours and all that kind of thing. I think it opened our eyes to what's possible. If I'd have known it was going to happen, I'd have bought shares in Zoom, probably.
I think we all would have done, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely. I probably would have removed Teams. Am I allowed to say that? And never used it ever again, because for me as a parent, Teams was like it was crunch point at several times. So that was an interesting.
The problem that the schools, as you mentioned in Teams, the problem that schools had. A lot of them have got, especially primary and and the state secondary schools, they don't have huge budgets. They were rolling things out as and when they could. I mean,
and everyone was just doing the best they could, couldn't they?
Matthew's school, they were sending worksheets out every Monday for him to complete. No. It wasn't until the second lockdown that they put something a little bit more substantial in place.
Yeah. I remember that the first couple of weeks, it was basically like you said, a worksheet that was, here's what they're studying, go, and I was getting quite into it. I was like, I can do this. I'd signed up to Twinkle or whatever it is, and I was printing out sheets, and I'd got their day and their little packs. And then by week 2, I was thinking, this is crazy. And then you started to get all right, here's their actual live lessons. And we'd got 5 children in the house, and I'm thinking, okay, that's 2, one on a phone each, one on a laptop, one here, one on an iPad, and it just got crazy. And you think, how were people coping? If they hadn't got access to that tech, that was the big thing. And we're in an area really where I think there's quite a lot of children that would have struggled during that time. So the schools were really up against it, I think, and they did a grand job. But they obviously need Techie Tony with them.
So obviously you're a one-man business essentially. Sorry, one-woman business.
That's all right. I've been called worse.
I was going to say the preneur word, but I know how much you love that word, so I won't.
Please don't call me a mumpreneur, please.
There we go. You said it.
Yeah. Let's just get rid of the elephant in the room right now. It annoys me. I wouldn't come on the show and go, oh, Tony, you're a dadpreneur. You just wouldn't. It's like, just stop. We're all business owners or whatever you want to call it, but just don't do that. I've just peed off like half of the female community that use that word, by the way, but, can't do it.
I'm a tech-based podcast anyway. Most people that listen are people like me. Geeky.
I'm share it out there.
Geeky men sat in sheds, sorry, offices. But yeah, as a woman in business, it is. I mean, I can only imagine it's tough, juggling everything. What if anything, tech-wise, has helped you juggle the work and the home?
Right, so you're going to laugh at this because I am a one-woman band, but you know me, and the whole idea of the network is about we have these experts around us, we have these cheerleaders. So I've got a PA who's amazing, and and I've got people like yourself who do the tech. I've got Scruffy Monkey who do my website, and it all stems from people saying, "Could you do clients? Could you do this for me?" And I say, "I could, but I don't want to. I can build a website if I really." Had a gun put to my head, but I don't want to. It's not where my joy is. And so it's really important to have those people around you. Now, when me and my PA Anna started working together, I had my diary, my paperback diary, and I love it. I love bullet journaling. It was just a way of working. And she was ready to kill me. So as simple as it is, Google Calendar has stopped my PA from killing me, and I have to say it's really easy and it's lovely and it's very colour coded, so it sits nicely with my diary. So even something as simple as that, which is just where people can communicate, she just loads my diary up now. You sent me this request, I threw it over to her, she's put it in there. It's that simple. I know that there are times when things go wrong on my laptop where we're running out of space, for instance, and I can just pick up the phone and go, Tony, what is it I need? What do I need to do? Or what, and you log in and you have a look. So whether you're a small business, a medium business, or a big business, tech plays a huge part in it. It's just knowing what bits that you need and actually what bits that you don't necessarily need. Because it can, even with things like antivirus, leave it to the experts because there's millions out there and I wouldn't have a clue. So you put what you need on my laptop and I'd just go, okay.
But it is just that. And I think a lot of, especially smaller business owners, they get too wrapped up in not spending money.
Yeah.
And trying to do it all themselves. And when you try and do everything yourself, things just fall by the wayside.
There are certain things in business that I would be almost my non-negotiables. So if I had, one is tech, because let's face it, I'm going to spend more time and effort, and again, time is your biggest thing, trying to fix something when I could just ring an expert who can log in, look at it, and probably fix it in far less time than I ever would, and I'd just end up throwing the thing, let's face it. It's like your accounts, isn't it? We can do our accounts, and if you enjoy that and you've got time to do it and you understand it, fine. Me personally, I haven't got time. I'm one of these that would be on the 31st of January still inputting, spreadsheets from a year ago. So it's just easier to outsource certain things. It doesn't have to be really expensive. And I think the other side of that is that small businesses can get so overwhelmed with the amount of options, the amount of, they think that it's going to cost. When you say, 24-hour tech support or, 7 hours a day tech, whatever it is, it sounds really expensive. But actually, when you look at it, when you work with people like yourselves, it can be really, cost effective.
Yeah, and I completely agree. Lots of businesses out there scaremonger. They play on that fear, and they sometimes then overinflate their prices. Me, I think I'm probably a little bit too cheap. But
don't say that on your podcast.
But
he's being really honest.
But I'm being brutally honest, and who's to say that my prices won't go up this year?
Yeah. Do you know, and exactly. So and this is the thing about finding your clients. So I do a lot of social media, whether that's strategy, whether it's like audits, or whether it's social media management. Me and the team can do it. And I had somebody only this week say to me, "Oh, have you seen X person? They've put their prices up and they're already extortionate." And I'm thinking, okay, well, what's extortionate? And when she said it, I was thinking, actually, yeah, that is extortionate, because I know the time it would take and kind of the skills involved. And actually, if someone wants to pay £1,500 for a month's social media, fine, yes, but that's not my client base. Now, they will have somebody that will pay that. But for me, and just the way I work and my ethos, it just doesn't sit right with me. It would make me feel a bit icky charging that, to be honest. So I have, again, probably should put my prices up, but I'm happy with what it is. It's part of what I do. It feels good. It sits right with my client base. Actually, I'm good with that. So, every industry will have its highs and its low. It's different people, different things. And again, when you're new to business, I think sometimes it's that high price tag that people say, well, it's got to be the best because it's high. And actually, that's not always the case.
No, completely. I was listening to an IT-based podcast the other day, and the host actually said pretty much the same thing as you've just said. It's good to have a price point, but again, just because it's a high price point doesn't mean you're going to get A-class service. But at the same time, customers can't expect Rolls-Royce service at Poundland prices.
Absolutely, and that's where you as a business owner have to find what you're comfortable with. You have to find that kind of almost core pricing, and then you can go up or you can go down and you can do different things. But absolutely, and this is the thing, isn't it? When you start in business, you don't necessarily think about all the outgoings, you don't think of all the costs. Sometimes you don't even think about it until something goes wrong. But it's just that peace of mind, especially with tech. Let's face it, my laptop is my business. If that goes down, it's gone. I'm not working for a few days, and there have been times, I think, where I've kind of gone, Tony. So it's always good to have a backup. It's always good to have that person that you just has you in your corner. And we started this by talking about networking, and for me, it's not, it's not about the price as such. It's about the relationship and the building and the trust. You've got to have trust in those business relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. We're members of a Facebook chat with another networker, and we quite often have a giggle and a laugh. But sometimes some of the things that we put in there, it's just like little nuggets of gold which you forget about, and it's nice to have that.
Absolutely, and this is like I said, COVID was brilliant for that kind of UK and further afield networking, but you have to almost work at that. You have to drop people the little messages just to say, are you okay? Are you still there? And it's good to have that. I will always use a small business where I can, because I think the customer service is better. I think the service in general is better. You're not just a number. I know that if I was to ring a tech company, I'd probably get, you are 12th in the queue, and there will be an engineer call you back. I know I've got you, and I'm not saying this is appropriate to all of your clients by any means, because I don't want everyone jumping in your messenger chat right now. But we have a relationship where I can jump in your messenger chat and go, Tony, when you're free, help. That's really comforting to me, that I know you on that level, and that I can support you and you can support me.
Yeah, but to all my other customers out there, please use my ticketing system. Because otherwise, I got Messenger, phone calls, WhatsApp, everything. So tickets going forward, Stacey. Yeah?
So everything I've just said, ignore that, because this is how bad at tech I am. I didn't even think about ticketing systems. There you go. Let's just scrap that, and I'll say, brilliant, Tony. Yes, I can always trust on your ticketing system.
Yeah, I'm not editing that first bit out. That's too much effort. Right. So my last, maybe not my last question actually. You've got some awards coming up. Yeah. Do you want to say a little bit about the Business Success Awards? Yeah.
So part of the network, part of the kind of the stuff that we do, the visibility is a business recognition awards every year. So we held our first one last year, after many people, and I'm sure you were one of them, but he's saying he's not, said to me, you should bring back your awards. I used to run it with a previous company, and I'd been kind of toying with the idea. And so last year, I think it was, it could have gone either way. It was straight after COVID, so people could have still been really worried about going out. But luckily for us, it went the opposite way, and it got really busy. There was a great number in the room. Everybody, it was almost like people walked in that room and just went, we're back. and that was such a great feeling. And so we wanted to carry it on. So we're doing it again next week. And you are a finalist in a couple of awards, actually. And so we have a panel of independent judges. I cannot be bribed. I don't have any say in who wins. I get that
really
now.
Can't. I've tried. Even before we press record, I tried.
Yeah, and this is why we have a panel of judges, because then people either want to kill me or they love me, and unfortunately, it's not my decision. But for me, the great thing about the night is that support. It's that community. It's just, a pat on the back for well done. After COVID, everyone felt like, it had just been such a crazy time. And even now, I think I spoke yesterday about it feels a bit like a COVID hangover. It's almost like the small businesses, we feel like we're over it, right? Everyone's done and dusted. But actually, there's still the cost of living, the energy crisis. There's all these little bits, and it just makes you feel like you've got a bit of a business hangover, and it's keeping you focused and keeping you going. So pat on the back, recognition award. So you get 2 pats on the back, Tony, because you've got 2 that you're up for.
There we go. No, I completely agree with you there with the the COVID hangover, but I think it was kind of, even COVID was kind of a hangover from Brexit.
Yeah,
because we had Brexit, which was a monstrosity. We then get hit with a global pandemic. Then it's Brexit again. Then it's cost of living, Ukraine and Russia, and
well, I'll be honest. Don't
I could have a break.
Don't ask me that, because when Brexit happened, I said to my kids, "Wow, you're living through something political that you are never going to see. Never see in your lifetime. Never see anything like it again." And they were like, "Oh, okay, Mum." And then COVID hit, and I went, "Wow, you're living through a global pandemic. You're never going to see anything like it in your lifetime." So that was like 2 strikes. Then obviously the whole stuff with Russia, and I'm like, "Wow, we're about to enter World War III. You've never seen anything like." And then that was kind of like, "Stace, this is 3 strikes. You're out now. Shut up and stop telling your kids they're never going to see something." Then the Queen went, and I was like, "Oh my God!" So that's like 4 major things that I was not expecting in my lifetime. I've just stopped communicating with the kids now, because I think they're living in a world where they are getting all these firsts, and they are getting all this, like, what the hell is happening next?
Hopefully that means England are going to win the World Cup.
Well,
we can it'd be the first time in our lifetime.
Aliens will invade. I know somebody said that's next. I'm not buying that one, but yeah, it could be anything, couldn't it? Who knows?
Yeah, let's avoid the UFO alien stuff. But no, you're right. It's crazy how in such a short period of time so many things have happened that you would think wouldn't happen. And I remember the coronation was only a few weeks ago, and people were in the pub saying, we're never going to see this again. And it's you will. You think about it. I nearly said Prince. Yeah. King Charles is 75.
Yeah.
We will be, in theory, unless we get hit by a bus, we will see another coronation. Our children will see at least one more.
I would say a couple, because you've got to think, haven't you? So, I mean, I do love the royal family, and I know we've gone off topic a bit, but Queenie went. We've only ever known the Queen. People of our generation only ever known the Queen. We're going to see Charles, and let's face it, William is literally the same age as me. He is a week younger. Should have been a princess, but hey ho. So we're probably going to see William come in, let's face it. And then my kids, George is the same age as George. So he'll probably see a King George. And he might even live to see, crikey, it's not even worth thinking about it, is it? But George's next one. So what is normal for us, having only seen one Queen, is definitely not going to be our kids' norm.
No.
And I suppose, tying this back to tech, I suppose it's going to be like that with technology.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just everything's changing so much. You've got all this. Everybody's on the AI bandwagon right now. Photoshop dropped something this week around generative AI, where it essentially scans the picture and try. If you want it to do stuff.
Are you a fan?
Backgrounds in. it's got its uses. It's still very, very infant. I tried to get it to write a bio for me using my LinkedIn profile, which says where I graduated when and those sorts of things. Apparently, I've got degrees in computer science from either the University of Liverpool or the University of Cambridge.
Oh.
I've never been to those universities. I've never even been to those cities. So, yeah, there's still lots of things for it to learn. But I think longer term, I think it will be something that, especially smaller businesses, I mean, they're trying to use it now. And I think there are use cases for it, but only time will tell.
Yeah, definitely.
So I did say there might be one more question. Is there one piece of advice you could give the viewers, either tech-based or business-related? It's completely up to you.
I'm going to laugh because if I come out with a tech tip now, you are going to be blown away. You're going to be like, hang on a minute, what is she doesn't know anything about tech.
The mind
So my top tip would be to use Tony's ticketing system. That would be number one because he's going to kill me otherwise. The other thing is genuinely ask the experts. If it's going to take you 4 hours to figure it out, sort something out, look at your time, look at what it's worth. How much do you charge an hour? Go and use that time to earn the money and outsource the rest. Genuinely, speak to an expert like Tony.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that amazing endorsement. I'm going to get that put straight on my website and on my socials. And no, I'm joking. But thank you so much. I'm really looking forward to seeing you next week at the awards. Feels like it will have been almost a year, I think, since we've seen each other last face to face. So it'd be nice to have a catch up. Is Mr. C coming as well?
Mr. C is coming. There are some surprises that I'm not allowed to give away. Even some of the team don't know some of the surprises. So, but Mr. C is playing a slightly bigger part this year. That's all I'm going to say.
So, are tickets still available? If people
Tickets
want to come
are still available. We are going to shut them off very, very soon, though. So speak to Tony if you want to come along, because Tony will be able to get hold of me, or go onto the Business Success Network website and hit the contact us, and I'll see what I can do.
Lovely, and I'll put all those links into the show notes for when this goes out, which will be tomorrow, the 26th of May.
Fabulous.
So thank you so much for your time, and I think we'll leave it there. Have a great rest of the day. No, you're more than welcome, and I'll see you next week. Our tip of the episode. So before we get on to the tip of the episode, I want to thank Stacey again for her time, and I want to wish her and all of the other finalists the best of luck at the Business Success Recognition Awards next weekend on the 3rd of June 2023. If you are up against me in a category, commiserations because I have won. I'm just kidding. It's been an honour to have been nominated, let alone to have been made a finalist in 2 categories. Now, as Stacey said, if you do want to attend, there is still time to get your tickets. Go to the Business Success Network website and you will find all of the details there, or click in the link that's in the show notes. So, on to the tip. Stacey talked about utilising experts a lot during the interview, and it's so true. Business ownership is tough, and it doesn't matter what industry you're in. Some weeks are really, really quiet. Others, you're rushed off your feet. And with that, cash flow is a bit of a roller coaster, up and down. Because of that, the lion's share of small business owners will try to do everything themselves. Hands up, I'm guilty of doing that as well. I built my website. I was doing my own invoicing and books. I was doing my social media, my marketing, my sales, etc., etc. And you can only grow doing that to a point before you just run out of time. We all only have 24 hours in a day. And there are only so many times when you can work 18 to 20 hours a day before either burning out or you start to hate and resent your own business. And you went into business to essentially have more time for yourself, right? Now, we can't all go and hire marketing people and sales people, but outsourcing is a great alternative. You get expert knowledge, expert experience, and it's typically less than you would spend on a full-time employee. I've got a bookkeeper and an admin assistant on the team now, meaning there are things that are getting done without me having to spend hours on it. I just have to glance at it and make sure it's done. That means I can focus on business growth, customer service, and all of the techie good stuff that comes with owning and operating an IT support company, including recording this podcast. So that's my tip. Look at outsourcing if you don't do it already. And we've reached the end of the episode already. I've been Tony, the IT Smart Guy. Thank you once again for watching or for listening. I truly hope you found the episode insightful, and I look forward to speaking to you again in the next episode. If you have enjoyed it, or even if you haven't, let us know, leave a review, leave a comment. It's the only way I can get better at doing this. And as always, I would love for you to subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. And I will see you next time. Thanks for listening to the IT Smart Guy podcast. We hope you've enjoyed this episode, and we'd love for you to like and subscribe on your podcast platform of choice.